Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well in your research. So again with another lecture, today we will be introducing, that is lecture number 22, sampling technique part 1. So in our last discussion we ended up with the sample size determination, and also there I have given a disclaimer that the number of samples that you require is actually dependent on the type of research. So if you have to capture like large variance in target population, so probably you have to increase the number of sample to make it representative, and also if it is not like that, so in some cases you can lower it down. Now associated with that, the sampling technique can play a crucial role, like whenever you have certain kind of representativeness and other things that I have mentioned, so sampling technique can play a crucial role into it. So today and then with another lecture, we'll cover it up into two parts. So today we'll be talking part 1, which is on the non-probabilistic sampling, and then in the next lecture we'll go for the probabilistic sampling. Now in this case, what essentially we are going to learn the concept of sampling, and I'll show you with certain kind of very easy example to follow, and then I'll also give you example in terms of some of the case studies that we have used in our research so far. Then non-probabilistic sampling we'll discuss, and also the type of non-probabilistic sampling we'll understand, and then we summarize this particular lecture. Say for example that for this timing, this is the population, that target population of my research. So first of all, these are some kind of you can consider some of the human representation in this case, and next we have, say, also name it. So say for example, these are some random names that I have given, and M represent male and F represent female. Now the task is that this is the entire population, so where you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and then you have another 10. So all together you have 20 people, and then it is mixed up male female, and then you need to just select 5 respondent out of it. How to select it? Now in this case I can just select in the way that, okay, I select like this. So I select the second one, fourth one, and then we can say 10th one, or maybe 11th one, and then maybe this one. So in this case what we are selecting, the second person, fourth person, 10th person, then 11%, and then you are going for this kind of 17th one. So there is no such kind of pattern, and I just can select like this. So this is also like satisfying that I have to just select 5, or else I can just select the first 5, or I can select the last 5, or maybe it is something like I can select in a different way, like I can select like this, or I can select the 5% like like this. So many a times you will also find, though this example is not very pertinent to this, that suppose you go to a medicine shop and you want some medicine to be procured. So you ask that person that, okay, give me this particular tablet, I need only 3. So normally in a medicine strip we have, say, 10 tablets, right, like that. Now the pharmacist or the person, how he can give you the 3? So there are many ways to give it. So first of all, like maybe these two, and then one may cut like this, or maybe he can just take out this particular strip, like 3 tablets in that way, or else sometimes maybe the pattern can be even different. So it's again, you can say that how that person is cutting that medicine strip when it is specially in some kind of odd number. So how he is cutting it out? Even if it is a even number, then it is probably the easy one. But in this case, out of 20%, selecting 5%, there are in number of ways probably we can select the 5 out of 20. First 5 we can remove first and we start from second, or maybe we can just skip 2 to 2, or maybe it is something like 5 means it is just 1/4 of the population that you need to pick, and there are in number of ways to do it. Okay, so maybe this is something like where you can select the first one, or else you are making a pattern. So in this case, every fourth person is selected. So this is 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th and 20th. So it sounds good. Probably we are looking at certain pattern. So this is another way. But out of all of them, like if we go back in this, the earlier problem was we have to select the 5% out of it, and then you just need to select like in this way where things are very random, we cannot predict will be the next, or else we just make a cluster and select it, or in that case maybe we can go for some sort of order 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th. So there are so many ways I can pick 5 people out of 20, which is 1/4 of the total population. Now which of the above sample highly representative of the population? So that is another question, that there are so many ways to do it, but which one will satisfy my need? In the first case, if you see that here we are picking up 1 female, 2 female, 3 female, 4 female. So 4 female respondent and 1 male. This is one particular overall characteristics. So for this particular part, what we are going to get, in this case we have 3 male and 2 female. The number is now changing. Now for this particular case, where we are going for this particular order 4th, 8th and 12th, here we are getting 1, 2, 3. So 3 male and 2 female. So all of them, they are giving you the total number 5, but based on my research, if my intention is to have a equal mix, or maybe we can look at the population statistics where maybe there are more male population than female. So probably the number, this 3 male and 2 female is okay, but maybe the first one which is very randomly done maybe not representative. So that's why the question is that out of which sample will represent the population best. So we need to understand the sampling method to answer this, and that's the purpose of this entire research and this particular sampling technique. Now in that case, sampling, what is the meaning of sampling? Is the process of selecting sample, as simple as that. That you have a bucket of say fruit, and how you select, or you can say these are the few questions that we have done in our mathematics or statistics class as well, that there are say 20 balls in a bucket and you just need to select one in a particular sequence, and then maybe once you select it you cannot give it back to the bucket. So what is the probability of this ball is selected, or maybe you can say the probability that we do it with certain other things. It may be the pebbles, it may be that particular balls, or maybe the fruit. So this process of selecting sample is the sampling. Now in this case, non-probabilistic sampling, that there is no probability involved, and mostly it is based on some kind of judgment, some sort of you can say purpose. We can go ahead with that. Sometimes it is also required we will discuss in detail that. And then we have the probabilistic sampling. The probability of selecting a respondent is actually determined. So, in such cases we do have probabilistic sampling as well. So, in this particular lecture and in detail we will discuss the non-probabilistic sampling. So, let us understand what exactly it is. So, it is non-random sampling as well, because in this case there is no such kind of randomness in selecting up. So, there is no kind of a probability involved into it. Selection of the respondent is not based on any random chance. So, it is much more on deliberate kind of thing, that okay, I just select this person, or I can select this particular respondent based on my convenience, based on certain purpose and all. We will discuss that in the typology. Respondents are chosen deliberately, often due to their accessibility, specific characteristics, or maybe the researcher's judgment. So, say for example, I know for this particular topic, I know that these are 4 peoples who are expertise, having expertise into it, who can give good responses to these questions that I have to solve this problem. So, for that I just select this person. So, it is not random. So, I know that they are good respondent to be, so I select them. So, for such kind of cases it will be something like non-probabilistic. So, there is no probability that who will be selected and who will not be. So, it is just I know that because of this person would be the best one to be picked up and I select. Now, if you want to know the classification, yes, in this case we have certain kind of sampling. The most common, you may get some more if you search in web and all, but these are most commonly used non-probabilistic sampling technique: convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, you have quota sampling, and also you have snowball sampling. So, what are they, where we can use it? Let us understand one by one. See, this is the convenience sampling. In this case, the selection of participants are based on their accessibility or proximity. Say for example, I want to do a study, the initial study or a pilot study to understand something. So, in that case definitely I may have limited resources to spend, and at the same time I do not want to go for the final survey. So, in both the cases I can just do a pilot within my reach, and then whosoever is available, approachable, based on that I pick. So, in this case this Arun, Sri, Shobha, Daniel and Prabhu, probably they are known to me and I know that I can do the pilot testing, I can do this. So, this is based on some kind of convenience, based on their accessibility and proximity, I can do this to test my initial survey. So, for small sample requirement, this is one of the option that one can adopt, and where there are certain challenges as well. The challenges is that I know them, but whether they are representing the entire population or they are of similar nature, they can only represent a segment of the society, which probably is not going to help to represent. So, in that case, with the convenience sampling, representing the population is many a times challenging, because maybe within the sample they are much more homogeneous in nature. So, there you do not have any kind of variation, where maybe in this entire population there may be some kind of homogeneity. I give you another example in this. So, you go to a class and probably they are all first year students. So, in such cases, as because all are first year student, after completing one particular subject, so they will have similar kind of understanding. Definitely based on IQ one may perform better, but at least they have certain knowledge of it. Now, if you want to only tap say their few understanding on the subject, so if all of them are first year, so in that case their qualified degree or maybe whatever their overall identity of like studied first year if you apply, so taking this particular any 5 student, or maybe I know few student will be good enough. But say for example, if I want to do it for the entire program, suppose architecture program 5 years program, and I want to understand the student perspective on architecture education, how they think, how important it is and all. So in such cases, if I want to do it like across different years, like first year, second year, third year and all, so in such cases, if I only take the first year student, probably that is, maybe they are very much known to me, or maybe as a researcher, like suppose I am teaching in first year, so I can directly reach to them and I can collect the information. So that is not going to solve the purpose, because there might be some kind of different opinion, because the student who are just starting the course and who are like completing the course will have definitely different perspective towards the subject. So in such cases, definitely this is something will not work to just pick up based on my convenience. So in that case also, if you take the entire student base, there also I can do a convenience sampling. There we pick up the known person each from one particular group. But the main essence is that if you want to represent the entire population, so many a times the convenience sampling may lead to some kind of biasness. So we have to be very careful of this particular aspect. So for that, this convenience sampling is useful for a smaller sample, and that way it can help you to optimize your resources, or maybe that can give you the first hand information, the exploratory aspect of the research, and then accordingly you can modify your questionnaire and go for a full-fledged survey for the higher sample size. Next one is about the judgmental sampling. So in this case, it is based on researcher's judgment. Say a surveyor picking responded he or she finds valid for the study. So what exactly that means? So I have, in convenience sampling, it is based on, okay, I see the first 5% they are willing to do the work, and I need only 5 sample, let us complete it. In this approach, it is something that out of the entire population, I know that these are the person who can give me the best answer, or maybe who can actually take part into my survey effectively. I can also select them, especially for the expert selection, for a expert view, expert opinion survey, or in a focus group or stakeholder survey. So there also we can go for this kind of judgmental sampling, where I know that Sri, Daniel or Jaya or Asha or Rani, they can in this particular case can answer to my questions. And this is something, if I want to give it the example in that, from perspective of the student. So say I want to understand the meaning of certain concept that I taught them. So if I know that these are the good performing students, so I just want that, okay, that whatever they understood, I just want to understand from their perspective. I can also say that, okay, please say the answer. But in that same time, suppose I know that these are the students, they are not performing well, they are not attending properly, they are not giving attention to that particular subject. So I can identify, okay, so if I ask the question to this student, probably they will not able to tell. So like that, based on my purpose, I identify the person whom like I can think that can give the better answer to my questions, my survey questions, or the questionnaire that I prepare for my research. So for that, the judgmental sampling is sometimes useful, especially for the expert opinion survey, selection of the expert and all. Next we go with the quota sampling. So what exactly it is? Here we are ensuring the sample has a predetermined number of individual with certain characteristics, but in this case the selection is non-random. So say for example, I want to pick a sample of 5, and out of that there should be 3 male, and then you have 2 female. So in this case 3 male and 2 female can be picked up in any order, but in this case I take up some sort of grouping. So in that case, this particular group will have this kind of 3 males, and then you have 2 females into the sample. So this quota sampling is also sometimes used where you want to capture some sort of characteristics within it. So in this case, you are looking at that particular homogeneity in the group. So suppose if you want to capture a particular quota, so this is something like you just divide your entire population into different segment, and then from each of those segment you pick up one such respondent or maybe group of respondent which can represent it. So here also we are going to measure that kind of homogeneity and heterogeneity within the sample. Now in this particular case also, this is something also similar to the stratified sampling. So in that stratified sampling, we divide into this entire database into certain kind of strata, and then we pick up some sort of sample from each quota to be representative. Within the same cluster, it is assumed that there will be some sort of, you can say, that homogeneity. I get back to the same example. Suppose if I want to understand the perception of student towards the architecture education, and then in that case definitely in a UG 5-year course of architecture, so from first year to 5th year, okay, I can classify them: first year student, second year student, third year student, like that. And from each student I can pick up few selected student, not in random basis but with some kind of representation, and then we just try to understand. So in that case, in terms of homogeneity, yes, we assume that there will be homogeneity within first year, there will be homogeneity within second year, but when we compare first year, second year, there will be some heterogeneity in their responses. So in quota sampling, we can take up the quota from each of the class, but in this case also it is non-random. This is nowadays very interesting and trendy sampling technique, that is called snowball sampling. So it is the phenomena where, like from higher altitude, if a particular snowball is rolling towards the down to that particular peak, so during rolling it will compose more ice to it, and it is becoming bigger and bigger. So it is also a chain system. So suppose you select one particular person and conduct the survey, you train that particular sample, and from that it will go to next. Say for example, I create a online questionnaire, I ask my friend that you do survey, and then also you circulate this question to your known person. So in that case, it will, in a chain system, will pick up. But for that, for the social networking and other thing, this is something very useful. In within limited time, probably we can reach to the maximum people as well. But the issue is that there is less control on overall selection of the sample. Maybe like if I ask my student to conduct certain online survey, and I say that you share it among your known person, so maybe it is something that in my age, maybe my close friend circle will be of my age or something, right? Definitely I cannot expect that, okay, in my group I'll have like very old people in large number, or maybe kids, or maybe the children, or maybe the school going student at large number. So maybe in that case there will be a bias. So at this moment, like definitely if I ask my student to do this, and he is circulating the questionnaire among all the student, so you'll find that there is some sort of heavy percentage in the student category of the sample, probably that is having a huge bias. So controlling this particular snowball sampling is very tough, and for that definitely there may be some sort of kind of rejection of some of the sample due to this. But as because nowadays, like for especially for the online survey and all, as because we are very much connected with this all social media, WhatsApp, LinkedIn and other social media, through which we can reach to the maximum population in quick time, and then we can get the simultaneous data. Then we have to take a call on that about the overall trend. So in that case, probably if it is being circulated, you don't know, you only know the person whom ask the question or circulated, but who is responding, as because most of the cases like you are going for some anonymous service. So that is another characteristics, that you don't ask the name, okay, personal information. So you don't know that, okay, how, who is responding and other thing. So through that characteristic, controlling the overall sample is very difficult for this particular case. So now if you just understand this particular part, that characteristics of non-probabilistic sampling, the method is definitely cost effective and time effective, especially for convenience sampling. You don't need to really search for the people to take part into the survey, as because you know them, or it is like they are willing to take part, so you can easily go for convenience sampling. In this case, samples are not selected randomly, and which is going to give you some threat of biasness. Especially, many a times it is being asked, and even we received many such review on, even we are also having similar questions, where a study is conducted based on expert opinion, that how you come across or how you select that particular expert, how do you know that he is the expert. So for that, there will be some rationale, there would be some sort of backup logic for it. So it is not that, okay, I know this person, that's why I approach. So that is not a very scientific approach. In that case, you have to give that, okay, this particular person has experience of more than 10 years, which is required, is having the expertise in this kind of field. So like that, there should be some sort of information to convince the scientific community that, okay, the sample that you have selected, even it is judgmental, but it is worth of doing it. So then probably the question will be minimized. And the other biasness, as I already mentioned, that, okay, when you go for some sort of quota sampling, that even if you just make clustering and you just take care of the homogeneity and heterogeneity of the sample, but there might be some sort of ambiguity in terms of selecting the person in from each of the strata, right? So the biasness may be there, but whenever there is a small sample requirement, the biasness may be less, where the target population itself is very small. If you just want to do a survey in a class of say 10%, so probably biasness will be omitted. Even in such cases, you can even interview all of them. But whenever the population is more and there are certain chances of having some variability in the responses, so probably those kind of sampling, all this quota sampling, or maybe you can say the convenience sampling or purposive sampling, is going to be difficult. Even the judgmental sampling is also purposive sampling, alternatively known as purposive sampling. And in such cases, like definitely selecting the respondent to pick up, so there should be some sort of issue of the biasness that you need to omit. Risk of losing the population representativeness, that's what I'm saying. So if I only select some responses from the top 5 student out of say 30 student, the top 5 student, I ask the question and I get all the satisfactory answers, or I didn't judge that the performance of students in this class is great, so probably we are missing it out. So for that, probably it should be much more random, or maybe it will have certain sort of identification. Okay, so one particular representation for the top 5 student, or maybe something like who are having the average performance. So similarly in the planning research also, especially for this kind of participatory survey, when you need some people to survey the stakeholders, say for example you want to make certain kind of rural development plan. So for that, you go talk to people with structures or unstructured questionnaire that we are going to discuss in our upcoming lectures, that we try to identify their aspiration towards the development, what are the issues that they are facing, and by that we can make strategy. So for that, definitely, like in order to tap different socioeconomic group, high income, low income, or maybe different age group, because their aspiration will be also different. If we only investigate it through the youth and not consider the elderly population of a village area, so probably will be very much biased towards making the decision of the strategy. So in all such cases, that for convenience sampling or non-random sampling or non-probabilistic sampling, these are the few issues that we need to really take care. But at the same time, with all this, for exploratory research or maybe a initial phase of your research to test or pilot your questionnaire, so these are very useful and helpful tool. The other issue is that the data might not indicate the actual variation in the population. One thing is the representation of entire population, that where if it's a population based survey, so there should be a fair enough and equal representation of different age group, so that you can understand it. But if you are targeting a particular user group, within that also there might be some other socioeconomic variation. So then that's why I'm saying that for social research, these are few important aspects that we need to look into. But in that case, if you go for some kind of non-probabilistic sampling, the issue is also like whether like it can able to capture the variation in the total population. The way I have given the example of performance of a student, the top 5 or the bottom 5 or the average 5 students out of a class, and their performance was this. So with that we conclude here. So in this lecture we understood the concept of sampling, that it is the way, the process by which we select the sample for our study, and non-probabilistic sampling where it's much more, or the selection of the sample is much more on the non-randomness. So it is based on the purpose, judgment, or maybe it is just through some kind of snowball approach, or it may be you can say the purposive sampling. And we have discussed all of them with their issues, say for the biasness, the representativeness, but they are useful. Already we have understood that okay, for a small sample requirement, or maybe for the initial exploratory research kind of case, or maybe it is something like for the initial phase of your research, these are very useful. We summarize it here. And then as because we discuss so much things to the biasness of the non-probabilistic sampling, so that instigate to know the advantage of probabilistic sampling. And there are also issues. It's not that probabilistic sampling will be having all good points and there is no challenges. So with that we conclude here, and we'll be discussing this in the next lecture, that is lecture number 23, which is sampling technique part 2, where we'll be discussing the importance of probabilistic sampling, the type of probabilistic sampling, and again the way we have done this pictorially with certain example. I'll also bring some useful examples for those kind of probabilistic sampling, and then our overall idea of sampling technique will be completed. So hope this particular lecture I could able to transfer certain idea and knowledge to you, which can give you some kind of clarity on while you are going for your sampling strategy that can help you. So again with that, thank you for joining the course. We'll be meeting soon. Till then, bye bye.